Chris is joined by Clarence Wooten from Steamroll, Thomas Richter for Staramba, John Monarch from Shipchain. It's quite interesting, actually. I always had an interest in the idea of replacing SOA architecture with synchronization around a single state as opposed to complex, self-dependent workflows. We also have Rob May from Botchain and even Luthra from Gladage. Thank you, guys. And you have 40 minutes. Enjoy.
Thanks. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Fabulous. So great. So today I think we're going to go over oh, you all good? Yeah. I think we're going to go over a number of different blockchain. Am I good? That better though. Oh, am I all right? Okay. I'll keep going. If it's very distracting, we'll figure it out. So I'll give you a bit of what we'll do as a panel now. We'll all introduce ourselves and just tell you who we are, what we're doing here, why we're here, and then we'll take it from there. But it should be a good discussion. So my name's Chris Emms. I'm the founder and CEO of a company called TokenKey. We've been around in this space. I've been around in this space for a number of years, but in this guise for around a year and a half. We're a company that do a number of different things, but our main area of focus is on the ICO market and helping a project with entrepreneurs that have a strong background. We apply venture level due diligence on any client we have, and we're there to go from A to Z of an ICO in a compliant, good governed way, and really bringing in all the key stakeholders in our industry to make sure projects are successful. And I'll let the guys introduce who they are and what they do.
Great. My name is Clarence Wooten. I'm founder and CEO of Steamroll and Rollcoin. We're getting ready to do an ICO for Rollcoin. That's part of the reason why we're here. A little bit about my background. I'm a serial tech entrepreneur from Silicon Valley. I've started 5 different tech startups from the .com 1.0 era now to the crypto era. I've had 2 companies acquired, and I'm excited to be part of this whole revolution called blockchain. And I'm excited to tell you about Steamroll and Rollcoin.
Hi guys, I'm Luthra. I'm Chief Strategy Officer at Monarch Crypto Investment Bank. We work with investors and help them deploy capital in crypto markets, and then we work with ICOs and offer them token advisory services from smart contracts to white paper to the whole doing the roadshow, like conferences like this. I'm stepping in for Gladage, which is one of the ICOs that we backed for $3 million. We also backed Rollcoin for $450,000. We backed Gladage for $3 million. The CEO couldn't come here, so I'm here to speak about Gladage.
Hey everyone, I'm John Monarch. I'm the CEO of Shipchain, and we are looking to solve the biggest problems in the logistics and shipping industry, including a misalignment of incentives, lack of universal track and trace, lack of incentives for people that are all around the industry, such as truck drivers and everyone in between. We completed our token sale. We raised approximately $30 million, and we are looking to really revolutionize things in this space.
Hi, my name is Thomas Richter. I'm the Chief Advisor and co-founder of Staramba SE. We are a stock exchange company at the stock exchange in Frankfurt. We are specialized in 3D scanning of stars out of the music and entertainment industry and also sport industry. And we create a world where fans can interact in a virtual world with their stars, and we use the blockchain for that.
And I'm Rob May. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Tala. It's a 2.5-year-old AI company, and it's the parent company of Botchain, which is an identity and compliance infrastructure layer for AI systems.
Right on. Well, what an amazingly broad panel. That's awesome. I think this will be a really good panel. So I guess to start with, what I'm going to try and do with this is structure so that everyone gets something out of the different expertise we've got here, because this is awesome. So I suppose, should we start with logistics and shipping and blockchain, and why is that important? Why would I, as someone in that very traditional industry, want to embrace this technology and use it?
So it's really interesting. One of the problems, and being from the United States, we're one of the largest, if not the largest, logistics market in the world. So approximately $1.8 trillion is transacted annually within the US in just shipping alone. And there are a number of problems. For instance, it's not uncommon for me to see people using flip phones, writing things down on paper, and maybe at best Excel. Track and trace is sometimes not unified or universal, and when it is, you're paying a significant premium through brokerages. That all being said, my background, I have a fulfillment company, and so importing things with my clients and helping them get from point A to point B internationally, where, for instance, it'll go through 5 different trucking companies, a railroad, and a shipping company, ocean freight. Those are all entirely different companies, but nothing is unified. So when it hands off from company A to company B, you may not know what happened. So sometimes there's a complete lack of visibility of your hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of inventory on a container. Nobody knows where it is somehow. That's the problem that we're really looking to solve, number one.
So yeah, it's really, really interesting. And then I suppose just to merge this with whatever else is doing. So what I really love about this use case of shipping, right, is it's taking a huge problem of leakage within a large traditional industry and fixing it with blockchain. But then we've got all sorts of other interesting things happening where, say, AI, for example, and then the capital markets and how they all merge with shipping in some way, right? So you've had so many shipping startups in the AI space to try and figure out how, I know a number in my head, how freight loads work and how you use artificial intelligence. But how does that work with blockchain? And how does AI and blockchain merge? And how, Evan, I suppose, how do capital markets get in and invest in this space right now?
The idea is pretty simple. I actually know these guys from a long time back. I've been seeing their progress, so very, very happy with seeing what they've done. Congratulations on that. Capital markets, it's a $1 trillion industry, like you said. Crypto by itself is less than $1 trillion right now, so somebody doing this for the whole crypto economy means a big thing. The idea here is crypto will only survive if the community grows. The more people come in, the total market cap goes, and that's how we'll survive here, and that's how crypto will take over the world, as we say. And that's what I think shipping will do. Shipchain will do for us.
That's it. Very interesting. And then how does AI come into this with your project, and how are you approaching this in terms of it as a blockchain utility?
So one of the interesting things about blockchain and logistics is a lot of people look at blockchain for supply chain use cases. And when you think about AI, what's AI ultimately doing? It's making decisions. And what is the supply chain for a decision? Well, it's the AI algorithm, it's the data, it's the models, it's the use case that all went into that. And if you think about a lot of what you hear about AI starting to do work, increasing levels of work that humans used to do, there's a lot of opacity there compared to what we have with humans. We can control humans. We can make humans take tests and be certified and be notarized and be compliant and all these things. And there's a lot of concern that AI is going to run wild. And so there's a lot of blockchain use cases to control access to the models, access to the algorithms, access to the compute resources, and also just track the varying levels, provide compliance, provide identity, a lot of the stuff that we're doing. So I think they're going to overlap pretty well.
Yeah, it's really, really interesting. I think a lot of people miss that use case where blockchain and AI, because we've had a lot of ICOs that came out and said, we're AI, and there's like this very convenient little blockchain, in my opinion, convenient little blockchain element that may have allowed you to do an ICO. But it's really interesting. I'm sitting in the space now, especially products like yours, everything's coming and merging together. We're having a maturity in this market, which I think, in my opinion, is an awesome thing. So I think, yeah, that's super, super interesting. So, Clarence, do you want to tell us a bit about your project?
Yeah, sure.
I don't think anyone knew, and then we can talk about that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So before I talk about Rollcoin, it's important to talk about Steamroll. Steamroll is a mission-driven company, and our mission is to help the workforce of the future discover whom they can become and how to get there. And we do that through Steamroll's mobile app, which is kind of like Tinder for finding your dream career. But instead of swiping for dates, you're swiping through the profiles of successful professionals with backgrounds in science, technology, engineering, design, and math. For example, you could swipe through a profile of someone who builds rockets for SpaceX or does self-driving cars for Tesla, so forth and so on. And so we're big believers that role models are missing from the ecosystem. On very rare exceptions, you cannot be what you cannot see. So we're in a very interesting age where information is widely available. We have plenty of online classes that will teach you a million different things, but inspiration and guidance is not, right? So until you see exactly what the payoff is from people who look like you with similar backgrounds and interests, you won't pursue those careers. So basically, that's what Steamroll focused on. Now, Rollcoin is the digital currency. We provide proof of progress for education, and we fuel the Steamroll ecosystem. So Rollcoins are used in Steamroll to incentivize role models to share their stories in the form of selfie-like Snapchat-style video clips and share their and provide guidance in the form of showcasing the skills required to become them. So as users learn skills on Steamroll, they're minting Rollcoin. So we use Rollcoin within Steamroll to incentivize the ecosystem, almost in a gamification-like play, but it's a much bigger play outside of Steamroll. And this is where I get into proof of progress. Right now, about $100 billion is invested each year by impact investors, foundations, philanthropists, and companies into developing the workforce of the future. A good example, the Gates Foundation might give $1 million to Girls Who Code. And as of right now, there's no proof of progress. Girls Who Code has to self-report back the success of their graduates to the Gates Foundation to secure that next investment. Unfortunately, that's arduous, it's time-consuming, and there's no transparency really involved in that process. Well, Rollcoin is a digital currency that tracks and measures the skill and career development progress of its recipient, right? So think money that you give, but you get data back. So in this case, the Gates Foundation could give Girls Who Code $1 million gift. Girls Who Code would then use maybe cash part of it in, but give the rest to their graduates to be used on Steamroll. And as those graduates learn skills and follow role models and get recruited by companies, that data gets reported back through the blockchain to our proof of progress protocol and dashboard so that Girls Who Code can see exactly what the long-term skill and career development progress was of the recipient. And the Gates Foundation gets an aggregate view of that data. So we're really taking advantage of the blockchain's ability to provide transparency for education.
It's really interesting. So I think for me, so when I first got into this industry, one of the most exciting things for me, and I don't think we've ever been there yet, but maybe we're starting to see projects go there, is this idea of really tracking leakage. You brought up impact investing funds, right? It's a very, very interesting space to figure out that if I give my, you go to the impact investing fund that have a lot of money from a lot of governments, from a lot of taxpayers. We're all, I hope, well, we all pay some form of tax, depending on where you live. But this is really interesting for me because what we're creating, and I think this probably expands to everything here, is the tracking of leakage of money. And again, capital markets, exchanges, AI, it all falls into that package. So what I'd be really interested to hear from everyone next is really how in your products and your projects are you looking at governance? And how you are using the funds that have been given to you. Have you got governance structures that you're using? And how is that really impacting the ethos of the companies you're building?
Before I talk about that, I think it's better I explain about what is Gladage.
Yeah, sure, please.
So Gladage is a senior aged care backed by the blockchain. What that basically means is Gladage is raising $20 million to build old age homes in markets like Korea, Japan, Australia, India, and the UK. Pretty much everybody's going to turn old. More people are turning older, less people are dying. There's a huge population problem right now. There's no place to live. Places like Korea and Japan have 30% people using crypto, but 50 million people living on a small island in buildings as high as 50 floors, and there's no place to go. The countries tell you that if you build an old age home, the government will give you land for free. So there's really a big issue here that we're trying to solve here, and that is that when you buy the token, that's GAC, Gladage Care, that token will serve as a retirement for you. That will be used to drive the whole old age home economy on the blockchain, which would be paying the rent for the old age home, paying the pharmacy, paying the medical assistants, the doctors. Everything's paid with that token. Now, I'm a millennial. I'm 23 years myself. I never thought about saving for retirement. I don't know any of my friends who are saving for retirement. Nobody can take out 10% of their paycheck today to save for retirement, but if you could buy a token that eventually, because it's limited in supply, so as more old age homes get built, the value of the token goes up. So if you buy that token, maybe 5-10 years from now, that will pay for your retirement. And coming to leakage, that comes after a point when you have leakage. In this kind of scenario, most young millennials don't have any money to forget about leakage. So that's the problem we're trying to solve here with Gladage, that invest in Gladage so you can actually save for your retirement.
That's really interesting. I'm just aware, guys, that everyone's got a different project here. So who hasn't told us about what their project is? In more detail, for both of you guys would be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we create avatars to interact with their fans. And my background is the music industry. And what was said back then is, if you have a hit today, the record company will do some royalty report half a year, and then they have time to give you the money for your hit 3 months later. So you wait actually 6 to 9 months till you have your money. So some of the artists have a hit and they are broke in between. So we want to use blockchain and the currency to have a smart contract below everything to get the artist the money in the same second that the customers pay. So that's what we try to do in the virtual world, but also in the combination between the virtual world and the real world. If you would meet the star's avatar and you like some merchandise, for example, you can tip on it, put it in this shopping basket, and get it shipped home from the merchandiser. So we have a combination between the real and the virtual world.
So this is really interesting. So the question really then here is, how do I take a project like this with an amazing idea and concept, right? And how do I now expose that to mass market? How do I take that from this room of wonderful people here that are all here and us here who know what a cryptocurrency is, or a token, right? But again, that is probably less than 5% of the world population. What is your strategy for your business right now that is going to allow you to scale that from going from where we are right now to the whole world using it? And will the whole world know that they're using a token, or will it just be like, you know, with Google, where I share a token for authentication when I log into my email? I don't know. Interesting. Has anyone want to dive in there?
Yeah, absolutely. So what we've been discussing is that we have to take things from both a top-down and a bottom-up approach. So in the global logistics market, there are a lot of different stakeholders. And the first that you think of, everyone knows the major companies. They know the DHL, the XPO, the UPS, the FedEx, et cetera. Those are your largest corporations involved. But in between that and much, you know, the employees, the drivers, things like that. So the top-down approach is working with these large corporations, working with them to understand why track and trace can be improved, why they benefit from making sure that they, you know, leakage, for instance, or breakage on the goods, things like that is minimized, and that they understand and know where everything is at all times. But the bottom-up approach is working with the drivers, the people who are actually making up the industry itself. So for instance, in the United States alone, there are approximately 4 million truck drivers. Of that, about 10% are actually owner-operators that own their own trucks or lease them and run their own businesses. So working with these people to show that we can help reward them for what they're doing and what they're doing best, especially with new regulations and compliance coming in. For the electronic logging devices and everything like that, that's putting a squeeze on these drivers and helping them not feel that sting quite as much. So we want to benefit the drivers, we want to benefit the companies, and just taking that approach, that multi-sided approach, to make sure that everyone's involved.
Yeah. You know, I was going to add on. For us, it's about increasing the utility of the token. Right, so Rollcoins are utility tokens that support our mission of helping the workforce of the future discover whom they can become and how to get there. But if you can only use Rollcoin within Rollcoins to gain greater access to role models, then it's a very limited use case. You really can't call it, in our case, a digital currency that provides proof of progress. So for us, we're putting partnership deals in place. We just announced a partnership with a company called Cadenzi. They're an online learning provider that teaches STEAM-oriented class, and they have an underlying platform called Canoe, which powers online learning for over 100 universities, including Stanford, MIT, and several other big names. Well, they're going to accept Rollcoin for payment, right? And they're also plugging into our proof of progress protocol so that when you spend Rollcoin, when someone gives you Rollcoin, they're given the gift of a role model, right? And so when you spend Rollcoin to pay for classes, at any of those online universities or Cadenzi, your progress is reported back to our dashboard, our proof of progress dashboard, so that whoever gave you that Rollcoin can see your long-term career and skill development progress. That's just not possible with fiat. So I think the best way to build an ecosystem is to make sure that your token has a wide use case and you have a partner ecosystem, because the blockchain is really all about building an ecosystem.
Coming to your question of how we are growing the community of crypto, I mean, the crypto world has blessed us like crazy. I mean, I've been involved with crypto since 2012, and I can't thank it enough every day. But crypto works in community. The idea here is pretty simple. If the community grows, the whole market grows. If the community becomes less, the whole market falls. Crypto will not survive without community. As a crypto investment bank, why we do what we do is that to help people like you invest in ICOs that we think are good, and we invest ourselves, so we stake our success with them, and we tell you. So if any of you go today and invest in ICO, even if you invest 10 pounds, if you lose that money, you're probably never going to invest in again. But if you invest in ICO, make that 10 into 20, you'll tell 10 more friends, they'll tell 10 more friends, and they'll tell 10 more friends. We are also building blockchain schools. We already have a school in Dominican Republic where we train engineers for free. Anybody wants to learn for blockchain can come, and they have a job at my other company guaranteed for free. We're also building the first blockchain-focused co-working space in London. We have 2 locations opening up where anybody can come and interact and know more about cryptocurrencies and blockchain. I think it's very, very important that the whole community grows. And if you guys realize that most ICOs that people invest in, like we invest in, we're the first users ourselves. And ICO is also a great way, not just to raise money, but to get your first set of users. And that also builds your community together. I think that's very, very key in crypto.
Yeah. I also think you have to, in our case, we reserved the total 1 billion tokens, 300 million of them to be minted on Rollcoin. And so on Steamroll. So anytime a user signs up, our users we call Steamers, they're primarily between the ages of 13 and 30, right? When you're trying to figure out who you want to be and how to get there, with the real sweet spot being on college students. But anytime any of them sign up for Steamroll, they've automatically received 5 Rollcoin. So now we've exposed an entire generation of up-and-coming students and aspiring professionals to crypto. And they can move those Rollcoins to a digital exchange and mint and mine more Rollcoins over time. So I think just making sure that it's widespread and gets great exposure, particularly if they can use those Rollcoins for greater things.
It's really interesting. Yeah.
So I'll answer that because we're a more enterprise-focused company, so we might have a different approach, which is if you think about the AI technology stack, most of the AI ICOs that you've seen have been sort of at the infrastructure level, allocating access to GPU processing or AWS-like resources. And where we live is we sell to companies that are building bots or platforms that are building RPA or chatbots or any kind of automated process, and they need a compliance level. They need identity, right? They need the way that you go to a website and you get that green bar that says this is a good website, it has a digital certificate. What we have is this decentralized registry for all these AI agents that's very similar. And so for us, there's no consumer play. Like doing a lot of mass marketing doesn't make that interesting. And so we've had to take a very traditional business development tact, which is hire a head of BD who goes out and sign partnership deals, and through those partnership deals, get access to developers.
This is really interesting. So for me, what I'm really enjoying about this conference is this isn't the usual crypto conference that I think all of us usually go to. There are a lot of people here from very varying backgrounds, and I think how many people how many people in this room? This is the first time they've ever been to a crypto conference. Amazing. Wow. It's nice. We're not seeing all the same people. It's fantastic. So I think maybe the question I've got here, because I imagine a lot of people here are coming from investment backgrounds. They're coming from different places that we don't usually get to talk to people. So if you guys were on the partnership level, where are you currently lacking or having resistance in your individual verticals and individual industries? And where do you need certain verticals to open up to you so that you can really have access and you can not only expose their businesses to the blockchain, but you can also make sure that your businesses grow with their vital partnerships, which is so important for any business. We can't, any startup that I know, you can't really play unless you start playing with the big boys. You need the big boys or girls to help you. So where is that lacking right now, and where do you need partnerships to help that grow?
Yeah. Well, since we're about the workforce of the future and making sure they're prepared, it's really all about tapping into organizations who automatically support STEM and STEAM education, right? I mentioned Girls Who Code as one example, but there are 1,000 schools and universities that are really focused on making sure that their students have proper science, technology, engineering backgrounds, et cetera. And they need a way for those students to receive ongoing mentorship and guidance at scale. And so by partnering with those types of organizations, so I'm sure all of you in this room or each one of you have had exposure or access to at least one type of organization that has that mission. Just getting the word out about Rollcoin and Steamroll is the biggest thing. And so that's the biggest reason why we're building our community on Telegram. You can go to ROLE Coin Community on Telegram and help us with that mission. So I had to throw that in there.
Where on your end, Evan, in capital markets and those partnerships are you lacking? Because that must be an interesting challenge right now.
So we face a lot of issues in what we do, and we do a lot of things. So our biggest challenge is that we're working with banks right now. I'm in the market to buy my own bank because I'm fed up of dealing with the banks right now. So I may as well buy my own bank and influence the decisions, how they work with crypto companies. There's so many crypto companies out there that need banking assistance, but none of the banks want to touch them because they have so much wealth under management that they fear that if they start dealing with crypto companies, the people will pull the money out of the bank. So that's one of the biggest problems we face. But end of the day, our vision and our goal and our mission is to just grow the whole community. In any way we can make that possible in any partnership, we're happy to do that. If any way we can get even 10, 20, 100 more people interested in crypto or in blockchain, that's the best. And we do that by backing projects like Rollcoin and Gladage, and we have another project, Livetree, out there that we also funded for $3 million. And that's the idea. So if you have guys at projects that you think they could do in blockchain, please reach out.
Awesome. With shipping, how has the reaction been?
It's been very overwhelmingly positive, I would say. So there's still some resistance, of course, simply because in the United States alone, again, I reference them because it's such a giant market, that there's technological resistance at some level. So I mentioned earlier that there are still people using flip phones and writing things down on paper. Well, regulatory-wise, they're being forced into using a lot of these devices now. So they don't really have much of a choice, much to their chagrin. However, we want to remove that pain of that device because there's that fear of, oh, I'm being watched. I don't want to be followed, especially if they're an independent company. And something like 80% of logistics in the US happens in companies that are 1 to 6 trucks. So it's a really small, very fractured market, and showing them that the technology is not here to hurt them. It's here to make your lives a lot easier, helps overcome that resistance.
That's interesting. And then just talking again about a very B2B business, what's that like with your current customer base when you're trying to explain to them that you've got this AI blockchain mix that's working? And do they believe you?
We do. So we have a lot of success with startups and sort of mid-market companies and people that are not, your very, very large players in these markets, because they look at this as a way to offer compliance solutions and they want to sell into big companies, right? Where we struggle right now is, I won't name the company, but we went to a Fortune 50 company and got very far through their process, and they love the idea and they love everything about it, and they got to the end and they went, well, this is awesome and we should offer this to our customers, but we should just store it in our database. And I was like, no, like then it's not shared, it's not decentralized, you missed the whole point. Nobody can validate it from outside your company. And so I think changing those old ways of thinking for some of those big companies is a problem.
I do also one perspective from a picture of the whole idea. The guys, you have to understand the blockchain is a technology, right? There's new technology going to come by. I'm already an investor in a company called Hashgraph. I don't know how many of you guys know that. It's 4th-generation blockchain, you could say. So blockchain is a technology. New technology will come. The real beauty here is the era of decentralized systems and distributed systems. And the resistance will come from centralized systems and centralized authorities. So banks will be against this. Governments will be against this. Ever since we are young, we're taught to believe in centralized systems. Trust a bank to hold your money. Trust the government to take care of your welfare, for your social welfare. Why? I mean, the whole beauty of blockchain, what it's really bought is the era of decentralized system, peer-to-peer trust. If I trust you, you trust me, that's all we need. We don't need a central system. And that's what is the real change here. And blockchain is a new technology. Flaws are already coming inside it. We're already finding flaws. But what the real movement is the movement of decentralized authority. And that's what everybody needs to understand here, that if we start trusting each other, we do not need central authorities. And it's an attack on the elitist. Because few people control these centralized authorities and central powerful organizations, and that's not fair to the rest of us. So this is a movement against this elitist organization and societies and sharing power back to the people. And that's what I feel is where the biggest resistance comes from, and we ourselves are the ones who are going to go against that resistance and make it possible.
I think that's a really valid point. I think that's the genesis of why we're all here. Sometimes I think we tend to forget that is the genesis of why we're all here initially. But then again, on the flip side of that, I think when you want to mature and you actually want to make an industry grow, there is the flip side. The things with the banks. I mean, in my personal business, I can tell you, banking is a nightmare, and we have never run an ICO ourselves. And we don't really hold as a business that much crypto. But getting money into a bank account, it's every single time. It's like trying to go, trying to find a way. Who can I call? Obviously, fully compliant, and try and find someone who will go, have you got a banking solution? And that has to change usually once every month. It's a nightmare. But just going back to that point of decentralization, when you're dealing with a company in the music industry, right? And let's say you need for this, let's say we've been through mass adoption and we've been through all of these different things. How are you going to convince, let's say I need Elton John to sign up, or Adele, or one of these big artists that could really drive that forward? What's the strategy? How are you approaching that angle to try and get those kind of people on board, those kind of people to, let's say, share the vision that Evan has for the space of going, you know what, instead of me having to give the record label all my money and me wanting to get paid now, getting them to actually want that or trying to break that so that you're actually exposed to that?
I think we're on the very beginning of that, but I mean, you say you create your own bank, for example, and there are artists in the world who say, listen, I create my own label because I don't want to be banned on the big ones. So I was lucky enough, I produced 4 years of Top of the Pops, which is a big music TV show back then, and I go into conversations with these guys, which I know from back then, and they are all into that crypto thing. And they try to organize themselves as a bunch of artists to say, listen, we want to stop that, and we want to be part of that revolution, actually. So I think there is a possibility, but again, you need to have strong relations between several different people who are having the same goal, actually.
Yeah, it's super interesting the way that all of this is merging. I remember sitting on panels like this with people, let's say like me before, where we wouldn't have had anyone with that kind of level of expertise and background, and that for me is the most exciting part of this new era, and seeing all of you wonderful people here as well who are coming at this afresh. I suppose, I'm not sure how much time we've got left, but I think it might be very interesting if we wrap around the room now and just talk about if I were in this audience right now and I want to get involved in this space, in the specific vertical we're in, why? Just give me a one-liner of why. We can start at the end and go through if you like.
So I was in grad school during Web 1.0 in the late 90s, and this reminds me very much of that time. And so I think the reason to get involved is that there's a lot of these projects are going to go under. A lot of them aren't going to make it, but there's going to be a Google, there's going to be an Amazon that come out of this. And so I think you want to be involved and learn and place some bets.
Right.
In our case, it's maybe also the fascination of this new VR technology, which develops faster and faster, and you can do so many things with it. So you can join a very new technology at the very beginning.
We see this as a transformative black swan event for the logistics industry, quite honestly, and this is something that has been sorely missed over time, and we feel that will end up changing the entire space.
I always tell people the best way to predict the future is to create it. And all crypto is built on communities. Every ICO, every blockchain company is built on a community. If the community is not there, the company doesn't exist. So if you guys want to get involved, choose any project you like, choose our projects, choose any project you like, and join a community group on Telegram. And then I think that will just lead to yourself itself.
Yeah. For a long time, access to startups was really only something that you could really get a hold of if you were an accredited investor, which you still might have to be if you're in some countries, or you are a venture capitalist. So the fact now that anyone, anywhere on the globe can invest in a startup project or idea and do it in a way that provides liquidity. I've been an angel investor for a long time. I've invested in over 40 different Silicon Valley startups throughout my career. And usually when I invest in a startup, my investment is locked up for at least 4 years. Right? It's not liquid until somebody comes along, buys that company, or that company goes public. If you invest in an ICO or project through the blockchain, you're liquid usually within 4 months, right? So it's a big, big difference.
Huge. Yeah, it's huge. So maybe that's an interesting point to go on here. So, the one thing I get this question all the time in the job that we're in, and someone will always come to me and they'll go, oh, really, they want to do an ICO? And then I always say, have you thought about the risks of doing an ICO? And they go, oh, the beginning time it was, oh, this is great, no dilution, blah, blah, blah. And I said, yeah, but have you thought about this other thing? And they'd go, what do you mean? I'd say, the community, the token holders. I said, the lovely thing about being a VC is the fact that, or being an angel, is the fact that there is an investor call once a week that you can get on, where you can voice your concerns, and me as a founder, I can go, oh, please, Clarence, don't sell the stock, because we're going to solve that. Clarence, what do you want for your birthday? No worries. We'll deliver it.
Yeah.
But this way we don't have that. So maybe a really interesting question here is, what are you guys taking, or I mean, if you've either done your ICO, you're doing your ICO, or you have a tokenized mechanism, what are the precautions that you're going to look to take in order to make sure that you are satisfying every single one of the thousands and thousands of people that might own your token or might then buy the token on the secondary market?
Yeah, well, for us, if you hold 100 roll or roll coin or more, you have voting power over the direction of the Steamroll platform, right? So we put that in the hands of the community, which we think is really, really important in terms of democratizing the direction that the whole community grows as it relates to what we're doing as far as proof of progress for education.
With Gladage, respect to Gladage, the same way, the more tokens you hold, you can vote where the old age homes are built. You can vote what kind of, where the money is actually deployed. You have voting power. But from a perspective of crypto investment bank, we tell people the ICO is the step one. Taking on an ICO is taking a lot of responsibility. You have people's money, and people have trusted you with their money. That means a lot of responsibility. And it just didn't stop there. After ICO, you have to do post-ICO support, which means getting listed on exchanges, building market volumes, so investors don't lose their money. I mean, getting an ICO started is just step one. And now because there's been a lot of scams in the industry, and it's easy to do scams when there's no regulation, what we're seeing now in 2018 is going to be security tokens, which are a little bit more regulated by the governments. Again, but this attacks on the concept of decentralization. But I think only time will tell how the market plays out, because it's easy to connect the dots when you look back, but it's hard to tell what happens in the future.
We do see the token sale as a very big responsibility to our contributors and token holders. We've got over 36,000 members of our Telegram group. We keep everyone informed in everything that's going on as much as we can possibly. And we just see it, like I said, as a very large responsibility to build the best platform that we can and continue to enhance what we have available.
We try to explain as much as we can to the artists, and we think it's automatically going, when the artists are jumping in, more and more acceptance in the market, like merchandisers or record companies jump in. I think it's automatically clear that this will be successful, and that's what we do.
So I actually wrote a post on CoinDesk a couple of months ago about this, because I think if you're an entrepreneur and you're thinking about equity versus ICO, I think you want to be really, really thoughtful about that decision. Because while the liquidity is great, I can tell you, if you've ever run a company, there are times you are glad your investors were locked in, or there might have been a stampede for the door, right? Because every early stage company, I've done about 40 angel investments, and every early stage company goes through their ups and downs. Even the ones that end up being really, really great have their moments when you doubt and wish you weren't involved. And so I'd be careful about that. For us, we have both types of investors, token investors and equity investors, so I have the worst of both worlds. We just try to really communicate continually, sort of like what we're doing, what we're thinking about, why we still believe in the project and the stuff that we're doing. And I think you have to realize that if you have investors in any way, shape, or form, you owe that to them, even though it's a time constraint and you wish you could just be working on these other things. I think investor communication is a really, really important role.
So we're living in it's really interesting where you're talking about this merging between equity and ICO, and we're seeing that in our business quite a lot. And to be honest, actually, it's a very interesting model, and I think it does make quite a lot of sense, because I think sometimes, equity is still. I'd love to get that opinion from people as well. I think that equity, even though we're in this tokenized world, is still a very, very valid thing for the exact reasons you're saying. You can lock in some very strategic partners and advisors. And just really, I think, talking. Are we done? Okay, great. Well, I'll just wrap this up then. It was weird. I couldn't see the time. Guys, do you want to just wrap up with one sentence, really, about your project and why everyone here should get involved? Just to give you a finishing touch to the topic, which I hope you've enjoyed.
Okay, so I'll say, if you're interested, if you like enterprise software and artificial intelligence and you want something a little bit unique by a sort of repeat founding team that's had successful exits, I think we're a good project to take a look at.
Yeah, I think I repeat myself. If you're into a new technology like VR, then you are in with our technology.
Shipping and logistics is a $10 trillion industry worldwide, and we want to change the whole thing. So I think that speaks a lot.
Everyone is going to get old at one point of time, and everyone will need assistance. So if you want to take care of yourself while you're old, do look at Gladage Care.
If you believe that the sports and entertainment industry should not have a monopoly on role models, and each one of you in this room should be a role model, then you should get involved and go to rollcoin.io.
That was impressive. That was really good. One sentences. Wow. Thank you very much, everyone. Hope you've enjoyed it. Cheers.